Hi everyone, Mitch Densley here. There's a lot of talk right now about Log4j or the vulnerability known as Log4Shell, and I'm seeing some people very dedicated, very focused on cleaning up this mess, and they're taking it seriously, and that's good. I see other people not really understanding what the risk is, not really understanding why they need to do anything if I don't have a server that I know uses Log4j, and so they're hoping it'll go away, and that if I don't do anything, it's not a problem. That's probably not going to happen. Let me explain why. I have a very simplified analogy I want to share with you to kind of highlight what the vulnerability is like and how attackers exploit it and why it's a big deal. Okay, so this is not a direct example of an attack. It's an analogy that is simplified. So, when you go to a restaurant these days, and if they don't have printed menus, they probably have the little QR codes that you can scan with your phone, right? And all you do is you open your camera app and you point it at the QR code, and then there's like a little hyperlink that pops up and you can click on it, and then it browses your phone to the menu for the restaurant. You can pick your food and everything's good, right? Well, think of the attacker crafting the QR code think of the phone like the Log4j server, except the Log4j server doesn't wait for you to click on the hyperlink. The Log4j server always has the camera app open. He's always looking for a QR code, and whenever he sees a link, he'll always click it. So in my analogy, the QR code represents these malicious JNDI strings. Now, a JNDI string, it's like instructions for a Log4j server to reach out to some external resource for more information. Like if I have a log and it involves a username or a computer's host name, and I want to know who that's assigned to, I can send a JNDI call to my log server saying, hey, go ask for the username from LDAP, our Active Directory server, and then populate the logs with those results. Well, attackers realize, wait a minute, this could be used in nefarious ways too. So instead of instructing it to go to a legitimate Active Directory server, I'm going to instruct it to go to a malicious Active Directory server. And instead of giving it a username, I'm going to give it back instructions to download Cobalt Strike or ransomware or something else that's horrible or worse, right? That is exactly what's happening. And the attacker does not have to target a Log4j vulnerable server directly. So in this example here, I've got my QR code representing these malicious JNDI strings. My attacker over here, I got my DMZ where my web server is. I've got some middleware, database servers. And then way over here on the far right, in the guts of my data center, is my vulnerable Log4j server. Now the attacker sends this JNDI string in somehow, right? The somehow could be the login prompt for your customer access section of your website. It could be that I open a support ticket with your support organization, and I include this malicious log string in as the subject or some part of the body of the message, whatever, and that ticket gets logged, right? And it gets forwarded to people and places, and other systems are seeing it and tracking that ticket. A lot of eyes are touching that malicious JNDI string. So the point is the attacker just has to do something with your infrastructure that generates a log where that log contains the malicious JNDI string. I had a friend tell me that he was on LinkedIn and saw people sending these JNDI strings into the LinkedIn search, like search for people, but put this JNDI string in there, and LinkedIn servers themselves were reaching out to malicious destinations in response to this JNDI string. So it's anything, right, where data can be accepted. It's like, if you remember SQL injections and cross-site scripting attacks, except there was corners around that one. Like there were certain commands you could issue, and anything outside of that wouldn't really do anything. And well, this is JNDI stuff, and the stuff could be an LDAP call. We're seeing people making HTTP calls. So that's SSL, that's regular web browsing. Probably aren't going to be able to distinguish that from other traffic. Or they're even using remote desktop as the callback protocol to grab secondary payloads and do bad stuff. So All the attacker has to do is get the string in somewhere, generated somewhere, and as that string propagates through the rest of your infrastructure, it will likely eventually land on a server, whether the server's purpose is for logging or not. Let me reiterate that. It doesn't even have to be a SIM or log server, because Log4J is included in servers that just generate logs themselves or need to manage their own logs. And so a lot more things than just log servers are vulnerable here. And so once that string makes its way to a vulnerable server and he parses it or he reads it, he phones back to the attacker's infrastructure. And if the attacker got their initial string right, it'll grab secondary payloads and it'll begin to be owned by the attacker. So there's a lot of confusion around this. There's a lot of, quote, guidance around this, and some of it is good. Some of it is opportunistically bad, aka because there's so much chaos and confusion, anyone can say anything and people are believing it. And unfortunately, some people are saying the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So be cautious, be skeptical, be worried, and don't hang your hat on hope as a strategy, because the attackers, they're inventing new and innovative ways of getting these malicious strings into your environment. Here's one I was thinking of last night, in fact, as I was laying in bed, not sleeping, like probably some of you, over this vulnerability. And I was thinking, is it possible for me to take a malicious JNDI string, feed it into a Windows process to the point that that Windows process crashes, causing a core dump and a blue screen of death? Because I can submit those crashes to Microsoft and they analyze them. And if that crash and core dump contains my malicious string and I send my blue string results to Microsoft and Microsoft has a Log4j server that's vulnerable and parses that, I could potentially own Microsoft, right? So the point is, people are getting smart and innovative in how they're trying to get these strings up into infrastructure that's vulnerable. So don't focus your remediation at your front door. Also look at your back door, look at the middle, look at all the sides, look at stuff that's not even traditional IT, right? Shadow IT gear is vulnerable. IoT gear is vulnerable. So it's not just, do you have a logging server facing the internet? That's not at all, well, it could be, but that's not the only way that those kinds of systems get compromised. So I hope this was helpful. I hope I helped you understand the nature of the problem, the way attackers can be attacking you, and to be honest, how you mitigate, there's a lot of strategies. Upgrade to non-vulnerable versions. Watch incoming traffic for these JNDI strings if you have infrastructure that can spot that and block it. Watch outgoing connections to destinations that are unfamiliar or are new. Honestly, a lot of server infrastructure doesn't need to talk to everything in the internet, so narrow it down to what it needs to do its job, and anything else should be dropped. That will go a long way to helping you generically protect your infrastructure, but patch. Patch is the best fix ever and always, right? So keep your stuff up to date and hopefully you're secure. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Take care.